Hi, everyone. Welcome to Skin Goals. I'm your host, Lisa Avalos, and this is my co-host, Kelly.
Hey, everyone, and welcome again to the podcast. We're so ready to dive back in with our pharmacist extraordinaire and also TikTok extraordinaire as well, right? Millennial RX. You can catch Ethan, Dr. Ethan there. So Dr. Ethan Melillo is here again. And today we're going to really get into a little bit more. Everyone's going to the drugstore, the pharmacy right now for sunscreen, right? This time of year, don't you go?
You know what I went in there for? Some ice, the missing flip-flop.
That's true.
And then the sunscreen, you know?
That's true. We're heading in. So we're gonna ask some pharmacy sunscreen questions today. Are you ready for it?
Oh, I'm ready for it. Let's go.
Yeah, we have so many questions about photosynthesis. Sorry guys, long word, but also active ingredients. Yeah. So I feel like sometimes I'm terrified of the sun, especially if I put something on my skin. So I'm so excited to deep dive with that with you.
I'm ready.
Awesome. Let's go.
So why would someone consider talking to their pharmacist about sunscreen?
Yeah, that's a great question to start off. So, sunscreen, it's at your pharmacy. So there's a sunscreen aisle, there's a seasonal aisle, and it's also can be located in the skincare aisle as well. So there's a ton of choices for a patient or consumer to pick out, but it can be, I bet, overwhelming to decide, which one's the best for me. So a pharmacist can really go through with you to say, hey, maybe a chemical sunscreen is best for you, or maybe a mineral sunscreen is best for you. So for example, sometimes with mineral sunscreens, they can have that white cast. So for someone with a darker skin tone, they may want a tinted mineral or a chemical sunscreen. Absolutely.
There are so many sunscreens, even for someone who's worked in the beauty industry for many, many years now, it's still baffling when I'm looking at the aisle and I'm like, oh my gosh, so many different varieties and which one is, right for me. Are there on that, we know we need sunscreen in the summer, but even if you're going to the pharmacy and you're getting something filled, we know that there's certain medications that are saying you need to use a sunscreen with, right? Are there any specific ingredients that you're kind of maybe even skincare ingredients that you need to use a sunscreen with?
Yeah, definitely. So of course, with prescription medications, with your acne, also antibiotics, some antibiotics you may need to wear sunscreen with. But then if we're going to go talk about over the counter ingredients. Yeah. So let's talk about benzoyl peroxide, salicylic acid. I'm sure if you look at the back of the bottle, whichever product you're using, it's going to recommend that you wear sunscreen because it can make you a bit sensitive to the sun. Yeah. And then going to another spectrum, with the serum. So you wouldn't think a serum that you would just use on a daily basis could make you more sensitive to the sun. So things like vitamin C or retinol can, make you more sensitive.
I always think about retinol, always making sure I'm wearing a sunscreen when I'm using retinol. I feel like it's been ingrained, but any retinol, over the counter, whatever, it's making sure, is there specific sunscreens that you recommend or,
Yeah, so definitely. So it really just depends on the patient. So, sometimes they may want a chemical or they may want a mineral. It really depends also on age as well. So, certain age groups may have to, use a mineral instead of a chemical sunscreen. And then also if someone, depending on their disease state that they have. So if they're nervous with if they have rosacea or reddening in the skin, so maybe more leaning towards a mineral sunscreen would be what a pharmacist would recommend.
Love that. Makes it there's a whole range and there's a reason there's a range.
Yep.
Yes.
There's so many types of sunscreen. What kind of sunscreen do you love?
What kind of sunscreen do I love? Oh, wow, that's a great question. So I will say that one that I like is a tinted mineral. So as you can see, I'm pretty pale, as you can see. And so for the tinted, it kind of adds a little color to you. It brings a little life to me. So for people who are, really fair skinned like myself, the tinted mineral works great for us.
Yeah. I love a tinted at this point. Absolutely. I need all the ethereal goddess tinted mineral vibes that it gives me. So yes.
And I love a glow, so y'all know that. I love a glow. So why do ingredients and certain medications make you photosensitive?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. So For example, like if a medication has like some medications have molecules that make you like that pretty much absorb UV light directly. And so which can increase, you know, the energy kind of that your skin's absorbing, which can really cause damage to it. Also then the other spectrum, there's some medications, like for example, like with like acne medications that can cause like really drying, almost like kind of disrupting the skin barrier. And that can also lead, you know, to increased sun sensitivity as well.
Absolutely.
Wow. That's so interesting. That is like the aha moment I had right now is about like it, like making your skin so sensitive, like all the medication that we might be taking for different disease states.
And it's even with like an antibiotic, which, you know, if you're trying to figure out which antibiotic could be causing it, it's a great opportunity to ask your pharmacist and, you know, start that conversation with them.
I'm going to ask my best friend pharmacist, Ben. He doesn't even know how many questions are coming his way soon. So,
well, that's a great stopping point for us. And we'll be back after this break. And we're back. So we've been talking to Ethan about sun sensitivity and ingredients. And you know, when I'm in the skincare aisle and I turn my little box around to read ingredients, you know, I feel like there's math equations going on around my head, just floating around. And I see this box, which is very interesting that I want to talk to you about, which it says like drug facts. Like, I feel like only sunscreens have that. Like, I don't see it in my other skincare. Can we jump into the drug box? Have you seen that, Cal?
I definitely have, like, you know, and I'm like, okay, I see the names and, you know, like, I feel like sunscreens absolutely have it. Maybe some acne products too, but definitely sunscreens, right? What is the drug facts box? Like, we need to know. Like,
so drug facts box is actually probably the most important kind of like thing on a product. So you're going to see this with over the counter products that have like an active ingredient. So like your sunscreens, for example, but you would also see this on, for example, like something over the counter, like a pain medication that you'd see with on the back, something that you take.
So would you say sunscreen is a medication in sort of a way?
In sort of a way, because it has like ingredients that are, you know, FDA approved, kind of similar, and they are like considered drugs by the FDA. So yeah.
Interesting.
So if it's in the drug facts box, it means it's like regulated in some sort of way by the FDA.
Yes, definitely. Okay. And so there's a ton of components with it. So the first is going to be those active ingredients. So for sunscreen, for example, so as a pharmacist, when I'm looking at that back of the box, especially if a patient's deciding whether they want a chemical or a mineral sunscreen, that's where I'm going to look. And so when you flip it over, if you see, you know, for example, like octocrylene, you're going to know, okay, this is a chemical sunscreen. And then if you see like zinc oxide, then you're like, okay, this is a mineral. But if you see both, you're like, oh, this is a hybrid actually. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Wait, so like the drug facts box, like being as a pharmacist, like do other things have drug facts box? Like when you're in the pharmacy, like it's sunscreens, it's, you know, like the drugs, do the drugs have drug facts box? I'm just so curious.
So, no. So usually it's going to be over the counter. So that's the kind of the purpose of it. It's in order for a consumer to be able to look at that, to be able to properly use it. So you'll see like there's directions. So how frequently you're supposed to be using it. Like for example, the sunscreen is going to be telling you should reapply every 2 hours. And then also the inactive ingredients. And this is where, if you notice, people may have allergies to certain products. It's usually sometimes not with the actual active ingredients. It's what's in like the inactive ingredients that are in it, that are kind of, those are the products that they incorporate into it to make the product what it is.
Okay, so there's the drug facts box, but then there's also the ingredient list, and there, you know, like all the components that kind of would make up.
Yeah. So the drug fact box, it's this, that huge box on the back. So yeah, it has so it's active ingredients, inactive, the uses and directions as well. And any warnings.
Okay. Love it.
What about I'm a full adult? Never knew this. Right?
No, it's confusing. It's overwhelming. And I feel like a lot of people, they just focus on the directions. They're like, okay, I've got to know, like, am I old enough to use this and how to use it? But there's so much more that goes into it. And especially if you know someone who has allergies and they're allergic to a lot of different things, they're probably looking at that drug facts box very like meticulously. So they're looking to see, is there an active ingredient that I'm having a reaction to? And this happens all the time just with medications in general. Some people may not be able to tolerate certain medications, not because of the active ingredients, so like the main drug, but because of something that like what we call in the pharmacy world an excipient, but it's like the inactive ingredient.
Say that again.
Excipient.
Just like an excipient. Yeah. Like, baby, I love words. Wait, so what's an excipient again?
So excipient is just like that inactive ingredient. So kind of what makes the product. So think about if for like a tablet, it's like kind of like the added ingredients to make that tablet.
Okay.
Got it.
It could be an excipient.
Yes.
It might be an excipient.
Yeah.
Kelly's going to go home and use this word in different ways, guys.
But yeah, if you talk to your pharmacist about that, they'll be really impressed with how smart if you say excipient.
I'm gonna be like,
Go tell Ben.
Like, is that an excipient? Like, what do you think?
Yes.
In your professional opinion.
Yes.
In your expert opinion.
So talking about sunscreens, again, we love sunscreens around here, guys. What should we look at in that box to make sure that we're picking the safest ingredients, or that we know that the sunscreen is effective and safe?
Yeah, definitely. So it may be on the back of the box or like with a drug facts, or it's going to be on the front of the box as well. So some key things with sunscreen you want to make sure is like broad spectrum. So if it doesn't say broad spectrum, you may not be getting sufficient coverage of UVA, UVB rays. So it's really important to make sure it says that. Also, like water resistant. So if you're someone who's like going swimming or just sweating in general, you want to make sure it's set, if you're using a sunscreen that says water resistant on it, because then it's going to protect you for about 40 minutes usually with those sunscreens. And so, yeah, those are the really main things to look at. And then SPF. That's like kind of the main one that we always look out for. And so that's just the sun protection factor. And so it's like how well the sunscreen is protecting you of the UVB rays.
Okay.
So we got UVA, UVB, but yeah, the specifically UVB rays. And with like the American Academy of Dermatology, they say they recommend using like a sunscreen with an SPF of 30 or higher.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's usually my rule of thumb when I'm educating patients.
Amazing. So like if I'm in the sunscreen aisle, I'm going to be like, okay, what am I actually using this sunscreen for? Am I going to be going for a workout? Am I going to be going swimming with the kids? Like, you know, do I need water resistance?
Yeah.
Like, do I need, or, you know, obviously I'm looking for broad spectrum. I don't want any aging. Like, come on. So yeah, I got to keep this, like, you know, so I'm literally like going to ask myself, what am I doing today?
Yeah.
Like, and I can look beyond the drug effect specs for like moisturization or other factors.
Yeah. And that's other things too. So for example, you'll notice in some sunscreens, they add like hyaluronic acid to it, because if you're someone who has like really, really dry skin, even after using a moisturizer, that could possibly help you, because hyaluronic acid, it's known as an ingredient to kind of be that moisture magnet. So it really keeps your skin hydrated.
Okay. Or ceramides.
Yeah. Yes.
You know what? I just had an aha moment for me on, I know you think about your kids. I think about my skin, guys. I'm like, because I love a retinol, you know, at night. I love an active ingredient, but I do need to protect myself during the day.
Yes.
Because then I don't want to have like dark spots or something happen, because I'm like being the mad scientist in my bathroom, putting all these active ingredients, which I love to exfoliate, guys. But protecting that skin that I'm exfoliating with the sunscreen, and asking my pharmacist if I have questions.
Yes. No, that's the main thing too. And also whenever anytime like a patient asks me, you know, what's like the best skincare product for like anti-aging, and it's sunscreen. Because you really like sunscreen is really, because that sun, if you're not protected, that can really help. Like it can possibly, you know, increase with it, like aging your skin. And so being protected with sunscreen is so important.
Do you wear sunscreen every day, Ethan?
I have to. Yes. Do you see the skin? I have. But sunscreen is everyone should be, no matter, you know, if you're as pale as me, but everyone should be wearing sunscreen, and it's so important.
Every day is a sunscreen day.
Yes.
It really is.
Every day is a sunscreen day.
Babies to 90 years old, we should all be wearing it.
Yes.
Yep.
Love it.
What did you learn today, Cal?
I mean, I feel like the drug facts box is a whole new world for me to explore even further.
Yeah.
Like I always noticed it, but now I'm like going to be like, what's in this? And and then I'm also going to look at the other list too, like of the ingredients. Cause like, I feel like I always was a directions girl. And sometimes I even skip the directions. I'm like, I know what to do. Maybe I should
Don't tell me that.
Maybe I should be paying attention.
I'm gonna do it every day.
I should probably be paying attention to these things. Yes.
Yeah.
How about you, Lisa?
You know, that drug facts box, I'm telling you, blown my mind that I'm a grown adult and have no idea. I've seen it, never really thought about it. I know it's there for a reason, but now I know why. Yes. So it's important, especially if you have children and you're looking at ingredients, actives, you know, teenagers, things like that, and the right usage for it too. That's helpful because sometimes I forget when to reapply. It tells me on the box.
Yeah, that's so true. And you could also ask your pharmacist.
Yes. Always ask your pharmacist. That's why we're there.
Great. Well, this was a great episode, everyone. Thank you so much, Ethan, for
thank you all for having me.
Yes. And we'll see you next time.
Yes.